Hello, welcome back. We just got back in from church. It is almost 1 o'clock in the afternoon, and so I need to feed the starter real quick before we head off. But I wanted to show you first what it's looking like. So this is our bread flour starter. If you've been following, we're on day 3 of creating a starter from nothing. We're using bread flour, Kirkland All-Purpose flour, and freshly milled wheat, and doing an experiment and seeing which one does better. So this is the bread flour, the King Arthur bread flour, and you can see there's starting to be some bubbles on the bottom. So it's starting to ferment. We're getting there. Day 3 usually start to see a little bit more activity. It may or may not. This is the Kirkland All-Purpose flour. It's starting to get a little bit of a fermentation smell to it. It's not quite to starter smell, but it is getting there. You see the bubbles. So that's doing good. Now, I was very interested when I saw the wheat last night. It has completely changed consistency. I thought that was very interesting. So we are doing equal parts in all of these. 2 tablespoons of flour and 2 tablespoons of water in each different type of flour. This one yesterday, I watched it change from when we fed it last. It was like a kind of a ball, honestly. And it separated out. There was actually separated liquid on top. And then throughout the night, it went back together and is now looking somewhat bubbly. Okay, so now let's start to feed these. We've got King Arthur bread flour, Kirkland All-Purpose, and our freshly milled wheat. So let's do the King Arthur first. So we're kind of getting to the point where it's debatable if we need to feed it more or not. But just for the sake of staying consistent, I will do it the 2 tablespoons of flour and 2 tablespoons of water today. But tomorrow we are going to up it, because at that point we're going to have more that needs to be fed. So we will increase our feedings. And I'll explain that more tomorrow when we get to that point. But for now, we're just going to stay 2 tablespoons of each. And I'm just dusting off my spoon in between so that the flours don't mix. Purpose, okay. And then now the wheat. This is my freshly milled wheat. It's whole grain. I mill it myself. And it is hard red wheat. And it has every piece of it in there, completely whole grain. All right, so 2 tablespoons of flour in each of those. And then I have just tap water. We have well water here, and it has worked just fine with my starters. So next I'm going to do 2 tablespoons of water in each of those. 1, 2, 1, 2. All right, so now we're just going to stir them up. You can see kind of what it's starting to look like in there. Getting thicker, definitely getting more of a consistency of starter. So that's looking pretty good. Okay, so now it's mixed up. You can see the consistency of it. As long as the flour is well incorporated, it's good. We are going to scrape down our sides and move on to the next one. All right, so I have rinsed off my stir spatula thing. I'm gonna start mixing this one. See kind of what it looks like. I'm just scraping around, mixing it in. Okay, so now we're done mixing this one. Just gonna scrape the sides down. So because we're on day 3 and we're getting starting to get a little bit more bubble activity and stuff, just for curiosity's sake, I'm going to put this band down to the bottom of this jar, like I talked about in previous videos of how these bands work and keeping track. I just want to see if it does any sort of doubling at all. So you can tell right now it's almost to the 200 milliliter line. So doubling would be up to 400. So we'll see if it has any type of activity at all. And keep track on that. Okay, and then our final one is the wheat. We're gonna stir that in. It almost doesn't even look like it needs to be stirred. That's fine. It just kind of goes to it. Now that is an interesting texture. This one is definitely very different. Like I said, if I was making this for myself, I would probably add in more water to it to make it a better consistency, but just for the sake of seeing it grow along with the others, we'll keep it the same, but it will stay a lot thicker. But it is looking a better consistency now that we've stirred it in, looking a little bit more similar to the others. So since we have a different jar for the wheat and you can't see the markers like you can with these, I'm actually going to take a hair tie. This is just a little trick you can use at home, and put it around the jar like this and just mark where the top is from this feeding after you fed it. After you fed your flour and water, just put you a hair tie or a rubber band or something like that around it, and it'll work just fine. So if you don't have like the fancier, you know, jars like that, I mean, this is preferred, but this works just fine. If you're on a budget and need to just do something at home, that works just fine. Okay, so that is it for today. We're going to watch these the next 24 hours and we'll see what they end up doing. See you tomorrow.